Okay, I had started recording this video in my house, and then my kids came home, and I'm just kind of at a point with them where I would really love to share more of this stuff with them, but I sort of know where they're at psychologically, and it might be scary for them, and it's just not kind of where we're at right now as far as what I can share with them. Yeah, so I wanted to share an experience I had that I can only describe as a contact experience. And I mean, I'm sure, I keep thinking, like, I've always really respected Daryl Anka for just sort of clearly, humbly saying that, I can't prove that this isn't just a figment of my psyche. The mind is very mysterious. I'm a literature major, English major, but a big part of that has been studying the psyche and the deep psyche and archetypes and symbolism and all that kind of stuff. And the psyche is very, very mysterious. There's so much we don't know. When we think about science, I think the best way to put this into words is that our brightest minds in science right now look out at the universe, and because of the nature of our psyche, they see what we can see, and then they see dark matter and dark energy, which just means we're aware something's there, but we can't see it. So we don't know what it is. It's just dark. And that's how the human psyche works. So I have really respected that he's been really clear about saying I can't prove that Bashar is in fact an extraterrestrial, but this is how it presents itself through my psyche, and the information matters. And so after I had this experience, that always made sense to me and I respected it. But now that I've had my own kind of experience, I'm like, I just get that on such a deep level where I'm like, I cannot prove what I experienced. And like on some level, it doesn't matter, because I felt in my body what I experienced, and I can put the pieces together and I know what I experienced. But on another level, it's like, yeah, but I can't prove it until they arrive, So there's kind of a bit of a backdrop to this story, but I'm not sure how much to share right now because I don't want to talk on too long. But I just kind of wanted to ground myself a little bit by explaining, like, I've been on, I think what most people would probably classify as a low-key, low wattage, like spiritual awakening, Kundalini awakening, spread out over maybe the past 8 to 9, 10 years. It's been slow process at times, much more rapid than others. Just a spiritual awakening is just so unique for everybody. I do not use substances that many people use to facilitate these journeys. Bashar's teachings refers to them as teachers. I don't necessarily have a moral stance. I have a personal understanding of my own experiential limits and how sensitive I am to all kinds of things. And so it has not felt aligned yet for me to really go down those trails. So I haven't done ayahuasca. I haven't used any really mind altering substances, but I've had lots of my own experiences where my body chemistry was able to produce altered states. And actually very recently I've been following just in the last week some of Joe Dispenza's work. I actually was interested in Joe Dispenza before I discovered Daryl's work, but that was back in 2021, and I actually quickly lost interest because there was just a certain energy at play in what he was saying that just didn't resonate with me. But now he's revamped all his material since 2024, and actually it all resonates very well now. And it's amazing because I'm like, I'm not like a super smart scientist. I'm a human being, which gives me access, like everyone else, to all information relevant to me as far as my beliefs allow me to access it. But there are many things he teaches that I had received through my own spiritual work, through my own like journaling and just however you want to talk about it. I have been aware for some time that I have the capacity to channel. I don't have the I would say vagal tone, and it's just not something I can't bring a lot of the energy through my body right now, but I can channel like a really, like I'm thinking of like a titration, and like all of it. I mean, right. I mean, I'm not doing anything anyone can't do. So, but through my own, like, just getting in touch with my own guidance. And I mean, I do ecstatic dance. That is probably the most, like mind altering activity I engage in, where you sort of achieve that really high frequency. And I've had amazing insights about time, the nature of, the sort of interplay between linear and nonlinear time, just through the vehicle of my own body and raising my frequency. So as Bashar talks about it, it's just following my passions, following my interests, following my excitement. Those things naturally bring about these states that people seek through different substances and different means. So again, that's not to judge those routes. If that, some people, that is their route of highest excitement. It's not mine. It's a route of lots of fear. So I haven't gone those routes. But just to sort of ground everything I'm saying, I have had different sort of psychic awakening experiences many years prior to any of this. In fact, as it unfolded now, this year, a lot of it was sort of like echoing back, almost as if the psychic awakening experience I had, which was treated differently. I mean, I was with a partner who was not spiritual in any way, had no way to understand what I was going through, and treated it as a medical emergency, or psychiatric emergency. And then that actually it actually helped break it through, because it was so stressful to be treated that way. And it was at so much odds with what was really happening. Fortunately though, even being channeled through that route, which I'm sure very many people having really legitimate, but with various, I mean, I had some traumas that were impacting my experience as well. But I was led to providers through that mechanism, that institution, like, our hospital system and all of that, like our, psychiatric providers and all that. I was led to people who were like, oh, this is like she's having like a spiritual thing. She's like, and providers who helped me understand that I was experiencing, essentially fallout through poor boundaries with relationships I was in, my marriage and the in-law family and all that was just having a really negative impact on my psyche, and that was causing a lot of distortion. But there was some symbolism and some things that kind of happened so that when I was having that experience in a very lucid, it's really hard to like qualify the state I was in, because I was definitely in an altered state, but I was highly lucid and aware the whole time. I just don't know how to explain it. And I'm sharing it not only to affirm like, hey, contact is picking up, but also like there may be other people who have absolutely experienced things like this, or like, yes, I've experienced that too. And they'll be like, okay, good. Cause whoa. But anyway, just sort of back up, the initial psychic awakening I had, where it was just kind of like being blown open and having like sort of these clairsentience experiences, and sort of like almost like there was a period of time where I felt incapacitated and something was processing through my system, and there was a sense, and at the time, like I was aware I was in a hospital. So I was like, I'm going crazy, I think. But it was like something outside of me, but a part of something that felt not unfriendly, was running data through my nervous system and my biochemistry figuring out what was toxic for me and what was not. Now, I was like, okay, like, I'm going crazy. Although I didn't feel like I was really going crazy. And I just realized that maybe some part of my psyche was coming to a new understanding of what it needed to survive. That something was happening on a very deep level of my limbic system and who I am that was like, this is out, this is in, like this is viable. But I was getting these images that were very like, I mean, now that I've learned more, I'm like, I don't know if it was just me and my own psyche at that time, or if there was another energy running information through my body to determine like, yes, this, no, that, because this is a person that is now when I think about it, it's like, it's hard for me to say words like, maybe I'm part of the contact agenda. Like maybe I'm one of these people. I don't know. I really don't know. And I also just want to be comfortable not knowing, and also confident with saying, I mean, it really doesn't matter, because my preference now, right here, right now, is hell yes, bring it on, at a rate that is safe for us, safe enough. So I feel like I have a naturally protective sense when I look at the world. Like when I hear people who follow, there's Facebook groups and there's all kinds of people who are really interested in Bashar's work and in contact and all kinds of stuff. And when I observe those discussions, I'm often very struck by, I don't want to call it like a hedonism, because that feels reductive, but it in some ways feels true, where people are just so much more attached to the outcome of contact than they are cognizant of the potential negative impact. And it just makes me, it heightens my awareness so much, and my appreciation for, as Daryl has put it, that there are grown-ups in the room. That's how it felt, even back in that really first experience, that there were some grown-ups in the room that I could tell were there, but were not in the room, like figuring out, okay, what was safe for me and what was not. And that somehow, and I felt it very much like, it was sort of like, you are in service to the collective right now, just stay where you are. Like, it was this weird moment. And I happened to learn later that there was like a big wave of, a lot of people had a bunch of spiritual experiences around the same time. So it's like, I was just kind of part of a collective wave that moved through. I hadn't, at the time that happened, 100%, while I knew I was having a sort of psychiatric emergency, I knew it was a contact experience. And then I denied it for a very long time. Like, I don't think it was. I think I was just having like an issue in my psyche, which is still possible. Okay. Even given this more recent experience where I'm like, okay, well, recently I got a synchronicity that was this kind of idea of like, give God, whatever your understanding of that is, 3 days. And this person was talking about fasting. Now, I don't prefer to deprive myself of food. I like me some food. But I knew I needed to put my phone away. And like, I was spending a lot of time scrolling, and that I was not feeling good. There were so many things I was excited about doing and being a part of and like wanting to get going. And I was just still living with so much fear in my body about everything happening collectively. And just really feeling kind of incapacitated, I guess. And then picking up my phone and scrolling to help regulate my nervous system just way more often than made any sense for me. For all the things I want to do, for all the things I'm excited about, for all the information that just comes pouring out of me when I'm in any conditions where people like are open to knowing things. Like when I'm in the right social conditions, something in me opens up and just information. And it's like, I didn't know it until that moment, but I know it with such clarity in the moment. It's really fascinating and fun. And so it just doesn't make sense. And I had been seeing enough of Bashar saying things like, it isn't friendly to deprive the world of your gifts. And I'm like, well, I'm afraid of me and I'm afraid of my gifts. I mean, just sit here and scroll on my phone. Window shop reality when I'm afraid to actually invest in anything. So I was like, all right, I can do this. 3 days. I will give 3 days to God, which for my understanding is all that is source energy. However you want to phrase that is we are all manifestations of that. Put my phone away, didn't touch it. I was like, I'm not, and, I was going to do a little bit of meditation. I was like, I'm going to run. I'm going to do some of the things that I don't do while I pick up my phone and use my phone. So I committed to 3 days of that. By the end of the third day, I was starting to have a lot of insights and breakthroughs. And by the end of the third day, I had this idea and I was like, I want to go visit this one place. And it was kind of coming through like, I don't know how to put it into words, but something in me was like, yes, there's a puzzle here that you need to put together and let's go check this out. And I started going. It was very intuitive. And I started getting as soon as I left, I remember even there was a delay because I was just going to go down for the day because it's a few hours drive from me. And I was going to go down and just check out this place. It was very specifically in my mind. And there was a delay with my ex-husband and my children and stuff, so I got hung up and it was like, okay, well now I'm going to have to, I'm going to still try to go down there and try to talk to the person that is on this website that I want to talk to. But I don't know if I can make it there and back, so I might need to spend the night. And so the agreement was made. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll take the kids, And so I was like, hey, well, I need to pack some stuff. And I just I don't know. It was so intuitive. While I doubted myself the whole time, I just seemed to grab a few, anyway, it turned into, I was gone for I had to keep getting back in touch with my kid's father. This has become some kind of weird spiritual journey and I am committed, because it ended up feeling like a series of escape rooms, which is a really weird thing to say. But it was like things were coming back to me, little things that I had heard Bashar say in channeled messages, like follow the white rabbit. And I'm like, oh, that's funny. But once you're locked into this sort of intuitive journey, you're like, you really have to pay. You're like, okay, wait, there is a white rabbit right over there. Hold on. Let me just tune in. What is happening right now? Figure this out. Every day, I would have these chunks of hours where it was like something was guiding me to see certain things and put certain things together. That went on, and it was beautiful in many ways, because I have gone through a divorce. I've gone through many life changes. I have not had time to grieve and process and really, uproot some of the junk in the way of my excitement. I haven't given myself that opportunity. I haven't had time to allow my nervous system to settle more into being the person I really am, that I had set aside for such a long period of my life. I really needed that space. So it was it's kind of yes, it's just working out for everyone, isn't it? and some of the white rabbit insights, while again, the psyche is mysterious and there will always be mystery no matter what level of consciousness we achieve, but I assume, but there were certain aspects of the way the white rabbit thing was appearing that was kind of helping me cue in some insights I've been having around the psyche. And most of my work I usually, I have an MA in English literature, and most of my work is involved in literary analysis, but it's also, sort of analysis of human consciousness and how this, sort of reading the rhetoric of the psyche is maybe a good way of putting what I do, and deconstructing belief systems that as they demonstrate themselves through literature and through rhetoric, through writing, through scientific studies, all kinds of things. What is that revealing about the structure of the psyche, and how do we deconstruct that and then reconstruct something more positive? So that's kind of the work I like to do, that I have not given myself much permission to actually engage in. I've gone to some conferences and presented some papers. I have not actually written any of the papers other than my thesis. I need to do these things. So this is me calling me out as I tell the story. because it's important. It's very important, very important that that I think I start to share my work as somebody who is excited about. I think a lot of people are excited about contact, but like knowing the academic world the way I do, it's like I am very aware, like, people are in for a really big shock, because there's the idea of something like contact, and then there's the visceral reality of being confronted with your psyche and that reflection in a way that feels like you are under an immediate threat, no matter how well-rounded and grounded you seem in this reality, our 3D world. So many people who are living moderately happy enough lives to their own estimation are going to be confronted in ways that I know how shocking it was for me to have a spiritual awakening. So it's just, it's I have a lot of compassion for it, and I have a lot of sense of like, yeah, it would be useful for me to start sharing some ideas to help open up some boxes in ways that are like, it would be safe to consider these things. I don't know. Anyway, that world is very locked into its mindset. And, you really have got to be able to open up and trust that it's safe to let down those kind of rigid mental barriers and relax into the knowledge that lives inside your heart, right? And that is not popular to talk about in academia, and I have found little ways to start doing it. So I got to do it. Anyway, I was on this journey, which, I mean, like, I would get back to my hotel room and it would be like, it's not like I was trapped in the hotel room. Okay. I'm a generally well-grounded person. I contain my own nervous system better than the average bear. Let's just put it that way. I tend to make other people nervous because I'm capable of holding my nervous system under conditions where most people are like, don't we avoid this? Because we can't control ourselves because I can hold that. So I know that about myself. So when I start getting really like, what is happening right now? And I was like, it was almost like every room I was in, I was like having to read the room. I was looking at the symbolism and the paintings, and I was like, what is this? I remember at one point hearing this, like not hearing it, but just like this idea going through my mind of like, every towel matters. And I was like, what does that even mean? And then at one point I like looked at the towels and saw that they were arranged a specific way. I had already been in another room in that same hotel, and they were arranged differently in that other room. But then in this room, they were very specifically arranged in the 3 spirals. And I was like, I know what that is. That reminds me of something. Anyway, so at a certain point, I actually had a sort of psychic encounter with another person that, I needed to have some boundaries with. But it definitely my processing was kicked up pretty high. And there was one night where, so I've heard Bashar talk a little bit about psychomantium. Now that idea frightens me quite a lot. I, as a child, was always afraid of mirrors, like not attractive, not a fun idea for me. But there was a photograph, a painting or something, and it just had a certain aura. I don't know how to put it. And it had a reflection, and I started like playing around with my hand and making, and and like at a certain point I was like, oh my God, I felt like, and the way my hand moved, and I had like moved my thumb, the way I was like, it was like an ET hand, and it was like waving, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I could feel the way, and I'm like, I'm either playing with my psyche because the psyche needs that experience of perception of an other, and the best way for my psyche to interpret that is through an extraterrestrial, and I'm just creating this to psych my brain out because I'm achieving some kind of state. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter to me. And then I was going through the motions of some other like understanding of a certain aspect of the psyche that I am familiar with archetypally. I was almost kind of like going through and doing a little bit of mother-father wound healing, you could say. And And then, I I don't know, there were 2 cookies in the room in a package. And just, I remember, like, walking over and being like, like, it went through my mind. So I've only one time seen a video of Daryl channeling, I think is it Willa? And she says something like, "Did you get the cookies I sent you?" My cookies or whatever. It's so cute the way he does the voice. And I just, that went through my head, like these are the cookies I sent you, kind of like, and I was like, I'm not eating these. But then later that morning, it was like, eat the cookies. These are for you. Eat them. And I was like, really? Am I just totally psyching myself out? I could be. It doesn't matter. I'm having so much fun. Are you kidding me? Go for it. I ate the cookies. And then, following synchronicities, following the next steps I was guided to take, I ended up at a labyrinth and had some things there. I had some encounters with people that were showing me, like, this life will always provide you with what you need. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It was really amazing, actually. And then ended up at like a hotel, and I was like, okay, I wasn't planning to stay here. Like, when do I get to go home? But the more I was on the journey, it was like, why are you so desperate to get out of this? And I was sort of laughing at myself, like, yeah, why am I trying to escape back home? I love my family. And I was staying in touch and saying, like, yeah. And I had somebody tell me, actually, at this hotel, the woman at the desk, she was like, oh, you're like on your eat, pray, love journey. And I was like, oh yeah, that. Great. It's that. Let's just leave it at that. Because I mean, I was doing more meditation. I was allowing my nervous system to relax. I was doing a lot of purging, a lot of, moving emotional energy and stuff. It's that. Yeah. Okay. That makes me I feel better now. So that night in this hotel, well, I had a few interesting things that happened. For example, hearing something go through my mind, like, basically I had a question, right? There was something I kind of wanted the answer to, or there was some little bit of knowledge. I won't talk about it too much here because the particulars may not interest very many people. But there's this sort of, like, sort of Rubik's Cube type puzzle in my mind I've been working on for a long time. And it was sort of like, here's this one square. Do you want to understand where this one square goes, or like this next move? And I was like, okay. And I walked outside, and there was a man playing with his son, and they were talking. And I sat down, and I knew, I said, just sit here and listen to that little boy, and he's going to give you the answer. And I sat there and I just listened, and I was in a very open, like, Joe Dispenza talks about how your mind, you get out of beta, you get into alpha, and your mind goes into theta, which is a more telepathic state. And then you also have gamma, which is that flow state. So I was kind of in that more zone, and the little boy says a thing, and it just landed in my mind, like, bam, that was the answer. It opened a new question. Like, this little square on my Rubik's Cube just expanded, and I don't even know what to do with that, but okay, cool. So I was already having lots of really cool experiences like that. Anyway, that night, at a certain point, I felt like something had locked in to my, I was kind of in this really open state, and something had locked into my psyche and was like, and I was like, what is happening to me? And I was just like moving, and I had energy moving through my body. And then I was talking, and it felt like it's like there was I was in a bathroom, and that bathroom became like an escape room, which is a weird thing to say. I was lucid. I was not on drugs. I was not paranoid. I wasn't afraid I couldn't stop at any moment and walk out and leave and go get help. Like, I was not in some kind of psychiatric crisis. I was afraid. I was afraid. I was afraid. I was definitely afraid. But it was like that space of the unknown. Like, I don't know what's happening right now. But I wasn't afraid either, because whatever it wasn't threatening. it felt so familiar. I don't even have words for that degree of familiarity. I don't even know how to put that into words. It was first male, and it was a very like commanding energy, asking me questions and getting me to look at different. It was sort of like this. And it was me talking, asking a question. So I think essentially my understanding of that is either I was having some weird psychiatric thing, right? Because I'm like, I mean, the human psyche is what it is, and we don't really know. But if I were to, the way it was coming through me was, and I was very aware, I could sense I was in a bathroom, but there was another room somewhere with multiple people in it. But I was in this bathroom and the bathroom became a way for this group of people to help analyze and understand something about my experience. And so there was different things, like I was looking at corners of the room, and then like the question would come through me, and then I would need to answer the question, but I couldn't. But my body would answer the question. I would turn my eyes and like my gaze would move, and that would answer the question. And then I could sense that like they were answered. Whatever was inquiring through me was answered and was moving on to the next step and moving me along through a series of steps. And I don't want to talk very specifically about what it was. But it almost felt like an alignment check of what it felt very much like, am I aligned for a contact pathway? What timeline of Earth was I aligning to? And at a certain point, while this kind of male entity was very powerfully like commanding through my system, a female voice came in. And again, I'm talking, like I am saying the words, and it was like, oh, she's so scared. And the energy that came through me was just so like, I mean, it was very feminine. It was very nurturing. It was so caring and so nurturing. And it was just holding me, and it toned all the energy down and just held a completely different space for a little while. And then that masculine voice would kind of come back in, and there was an interplay. And they were kind of guiding me through. And there were things like, it was just like, there were things like my hands were on the floor. And they were checking, like when I moved my body, where did my hands land? And things like my eyes were just moving themselves. Like where did her hands land? Or they passed the line? And then these feeling. And when it first happened, let me just say this part. It started off a little rocky, but at a certain point, as I started responding and moving my body in response to, they would ask a question, and then I was saying it through my own mouth. And then like things like, she understands, even though I was like, I think, because I was getting like hints of information were kind of in the back of my mind, but I was second guessing it. And they were like, she understands. Okay. Like she knows what to do. And I'm like, what? No, I don't. Yes, I do. Okay. And it was just kind of moving me step by step. And I was just full of this feeling of, this is impossible. But nothing was more possible ever before in my life. I don't know how to put that into words. But at a certain point, when the connection really started happening and I started responding a little more, I think the first time I made a move that demonstrated that I was aligning to a contact timeline, what I'm just going to call a contact timeline, because the way it came through me was very specific. There were like 2 timelines, and it was like, where are you? And it was almost like, like gaining data. Like, we just need a certain number of you aligning down this pathway and we're good. That's the feeling I had in me. Like, and I was getting like, parts of me were just like, I'm in a hotel room. There's another suite next to me. My voice was booming when that male voice was speaking through me. I was like, I am being so loud. What if they can hear? And something in me was like, there is literally no one more important on the whole planet right now than you. Focus. And I was like, well, I don't believe that. And that's why I'm a good person to use for this exercise. So because I'm like, I'm not. I don't care what anyone tells me. Everyone's equally important, and I can't be the only one. So I was able, my nervous system chills out when someone says that kind of a statement, or my psyche offers some kind of statement like that. It chilled my nervous system, and I started to relax a little bit. And I can't describe the feelings of joy that moved through me when I felt, when they, like, when it all came together, and they saw that I had aligned past this one line, and there were like 4 jumps I had to make. But the first move I made, and they were like, they saw, and then they asked me a question, like I asked me a question through me, and I made some kind of move with my body or my eyes, and it was sort of like looking at points on the, I can't remember if they were on the floor or the wall. It almost looked like stars aligning. I don't know what it was. But when it all, like the certain point, the joy that moved through me, and the voice that spoke through me was just like, we are in so much joy. We can't even put it into words for you. Like, we're in so much joy to be making this contact. And like, it was amazing. It was freaking amazing. Okay. And then they kind of moved me. This lasted quite a while. And I remember just being like, when do I get to stop? But also like, it was fully compelling, because there was an energy holding, and there was even points where I started thinking, like, feeling like I'm really thirsty, and they were like, oh, hold on. And my mouth started like salivating, and they were like, we're going to get you more water. And such subtle things were happening in the room. Like, they would ask me a question, and I would ask a question, and I would be like, everything in me would freeze. My whole nervous system would freeze up, and I'd be like, I don't know. And then I would, like, the shower would drip some drips of water, and then I'd feel a release, and then they would go, yes. And my hands, I would, like, my whole body would lift up, and I was like, yes. And I was like, I don't even know what's happening right now. I do not even know what's happening right now, but someone knows what's happening right now, either in my psyche. And this is good news for me. Obviously, I have never felt better ever in my whole life. I've never felt so amazing. I've never felt so sure of anything in my whole life, at the same time as being so wholly unsure of what was happening. It was, and lucid, you know, I was lucid the whole time. I was not losing track. I was aware that there was even a moment where I was like watching the room, like, change. Like, there was like a little spider running around, and it felt right. And I'm just saying these things because hopefully other people have had experiences like this and can say, oh yeah, because what it was to me was like, there was a little tiny spider crawling on the ground, and they had asked a question, and my eyes darted right to this little tiny spider, and it started moving, and like, I looked at it and it started moving, and then all of a sudden it disappeared, and something in me was like, uh-oh. And then everything and it was like, just relax. She can bring it back. She can bring it back. And it was just this like calm, peaceful, like, you can do it, relax. And then the spider came back, and I was like, what just happened? There was I don't know how long this lasted, but it was probably at least an hour. I would say at least an hour. And then there was more with the mirror, and I was looking in the mirror and seeing like my eyes like fully dilate, completely dilate to all black. And then like, I was like, oh my gosh. So I don't know if my eyes actually dilated, or if my psyche was superimposing something, or if there is really a psychomantium thing and something was, I mean, there was times where it almost felt like it wasn't me looking at me, but it was me. But it was very masculine. Anyway, very strange. And very, you know, at times it felt like there was some kind of a little bit of interference, but it was almost like the main force of entities, whatever it was holding me, was so much more dominant. It was just like there was nothing competing with whatever they were doing. And I had a lot of fear. So I'm saying, like, it's because I know people talk about, and even Bashar mentions, like, yeah, mirrors, be careful. So I was kind of aware of, like, I don't want to get sucked in, like, in a negative way. Like, I don't want to invite anything out. I keep my mirrors covered at home. I have symbols drawn on my mirrors, like protection symbols. Not my bathroom mirrors, but the big mirrors that are in our bedrooms. I keep them covered. Anyway, and then after that, and again, like, there were all these moments where this just joyful, like, accomplishment, like this, yes, like this feeling would run through me, like, yes, like, it was so, like, I don't know how to put it into words, just a really great feeling of, like having accomplished something that you absolutely knew you could accomplish, but there being the probability, potential that you might not. So the accomplishment is still very satisfying. I mean, satisfying beyond my capacity to, like, I don't know what I was accomplishing, but it was the most satisfying accomplishment I have ever felt in my life. So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know. I can't prove anything, but I was very aware that there was, I don't know what group. I mean, Sasani is the one thing that comes to mind. I mean, the energy felt very, very similar to what it definitely, it wasn't like Bashar or that energy, but it was very similar in, that doesn't mean that there aren't other races that are going to have, to my system, a kind of similar. I don't know if my system could tolerate it. I mean, I don't know who it was. It could have been any kind of group that is connected, triangulating. Who knows? I don't know. Okay, but at another point during all of this, I went back and laid down in my bed, and I actually felt more of what seemed more like perhaps my own ancestors, my own spirit guides, who I don't have a whole lot of that they actually had more contact with me. And at a certain point when I was in that bathroom, there came a point where I was kind of freezing up and getting really, like, tense, because the energy was just, like, really picking up. And I was like, and I was really, not paranoid, but, like, petrified. Like, I knew I needed to do something and I didn't know how to do it. It's kind of the feeling, and just so frozen. And like the kind of more feminine voice at a certain point was like, hold on. We're just finding who can help you right now. I mean, and I'm saying it, hold on, we're just finding who can help you right now. It was really cool. Okay. And then I laid down on my bed and started to feel a little more of a mix of more like earth-based energies too. And then at a certain point, I think shortly after that, I was sort of in a meditation, and I saw a face come through, like, in my psyche. It wasn't quite, I don't know quite exactly where to locate it. It didn't seem like it was up in my third eye. It seemed more like from here, but it was almost like there was a sort of a liquid glass kind of mirror fluid in a way, and a face kind of went through it, and it was white with kind of blue eyes. When I see pictures that Bashar shows or Daryl shows of the Sasani, it was like that. It was a Sasani type face. It doesn't mean it was. I don't know for sure. But it was that same, it looked exactly like, and it's almost like it kind of pushed through a little bit, like peekaboo, and then kind of like went back. And I was like, okay, I kind of want more of that. And then at another point, a different point, I was like resting. I kept getting the message, like, go lay down. Okay. And now just relax your body as much as you can. The next day, I mean, I had energy just like running through, tingling in my arms. Like it was intense, whatever I experienced. And the next day, like, I was just getting very clear, like, go eat the food, eat everything on your plate, even if you don't feel like it. And I felt really like, but also like, had this, like, it was the sense of being coached in a way of just like, your nervous system is doing very well. And I was like, okay, it's good to know, because I don't feel like I'm doing very well. I don't know how to put it into words. But I mean, I drank my tea, I ordered my food, I was able to function more or less like a lucid, normal human being. Just, I was feeling like I had been imploded outward and inward, and was just more aware of more. I don't know how to put it into words, because I wasn't sure what I was aware of either. But yeah, it was really interesting. And then, so another time I had lay down and was resting and just letting my nervous system settle and calm down. I heard sort of through my thoughts, I heard don't panic. And I was like, okay. And then I have 6 legs, and I was like, okay. But I immediately thought of like a mantis being, and then it kind of got a little bit of like genetic, but then the words just fragmented away. And I was like, okay. And then it was gone. And I was like, so that happened. And if I saw me saying any of this even 3 months ago, I'd been like, I don't know. But yeah, so I was not expecting any of that. I went to one channeling event in Sedona, and I went to Bell Rock, and I tried to have a contact experience, and I was contacted by a velvet ant. It didn't touch me, but it made a very clear presentation of itself to me, and we had an understanding about boundaries that I needed. And I looked up some symbolism, and I had some synchronicities, and I had an amazing meditation experience where Daryl guides meditations, and I had, during one of the meditations, I think he only gave one, the one evening, but I felt like my whole body started in my heart. I just lit up, like it felt like a filament lighting up, all starting in my heart down through my core. And I, like, at the end, I was like, I felt like I was married. I don't know what that means. Now, there are all kinds of people in these communities who say all kinds of stuff where I'm like, that doesn't sound grounded. And so I don't mean literally in the sense of like the way some people think of it in our earth terms. I just mean I experienced some kind of internal union, but it also felt like a resonance was established. So that happened in Sedona back last year. I wasn't even able to get up and ask my questions, although my questions were answered. They were answered, which was awesome. Even though I wasn't able to get up and ask. But I don't know. I feel like while I am a very spiritual person and I've had a number of really awesome spiritual experiences. Yeah, I went to the CE5 event that night, and I was so uncomfortable. I couldn't relax. I didn't see anything but airplanes. The person next to me had a lovely contact, visual experience in their own mind. It sounded beautiful. And I was like, wow, but I was just uncomfortable. And I was listening to the bats get all excited about the echolocation as the sounds they were playing with the meditation. But yeah, I felt so far. I had never felt farther from a contact experience than when I was at that CE5 event. So yeah, I've never seen a UFO. I've always wanted to see one, never seen one. And now I'm looking up at the sky all the time like, all right, show yourselves. If this really happened, show yourselves. But, I do understand that that's not how beliefs work. So, yeah. All right. Well, I just wanted to tell that story, and I don't know what else to say, except that I've been guided to do specific types of meditation to help open me up more. And even today I sat in meditation and I could feel like a sense of something opening up in me that was like something wanted to be in that space. Not anything bad, but just I could feel the pressure, like, oh my gosh, like whatever, that's more than I can accommodate. But it's not quite how Daryl describes it. He's described it as like trying to put like I forget how he describes it, but just like the idea of like a fire hose through like a like right. But it was definitely a feeling of that I have some restrictions that need to relax before but I could start to feel a thing like, wow, okay, so this is cool. And I'm sharing it for lots of reasons, but most especially because I think people who are having contact experiences or what they think might be contact experiences, the more we start sharing, like, hey, this happened. What's going on with you? Like it just will keep the ball rolling, like I just see like a beach ball bouncing around from person to person, like, hey, we're gonna have a big beach party. So I say those and I'm like, I mean, I've had a dream about, right, they have said that the ships will come off the coast and stuff so we can see them. All right, well, okay, I'm gonna stop there. This is really long and I hadn't intended to take this long to tell my story, so I gotta run inside and check on my family. Yeah, I have felt very different since all of that happens, and very more challenged than ever by the fears that still are in me, but also more capable of being more fearless. Okay.